Welcome to Coffee with Kupke, a production of St. Paul Inside the Walls. Here on Coffee with Kupke, we grab a cup of coffee, at least we're claiming this is coffee. We sit with Monsignor Raymond Kupke, the pastor of St. Anthony's in Hawthorne, professor at Immaculate Conception Seminary, diocesan archivist. We sit with Monsignor Kupke to delve into the history of Catholicism in the Diocese of Paterson. My name is Father Paul Manning. I am the vicar for Evangelization for the Diocese of Paterson. And here I am with Monsignor Kupke. So grab your cup of coffee and let's jump right in. I'm going to take a sip. Monsignor Kupke, the Boland era was short-lived.
Short-lived, yes. Archbishop Walsh in Newark died relatively suddenly, and in a few months,
he was tapped.
Boland was named the second Archbishop of Newark.
Yeah.
He was installed, interestingly, in Sacred Heart Church in Vailsburg, Newark, which has now been closed. But he was appointed just as Newark was getting ready to celebrate its centennial. And they were in the last stages of the interior work at Sacred Heart Basilica. So they had to have the installation somewhere else.
This would have been the early 50s?
53.
Yeah.
He was appointed at the end of 52.
My Aunt Helen Hall, my father's sister, was the parish secretary at Sacred Heart in Vailsburg for decades and decades. I wonder if she was there then.
That was the biggest parish in the state for a long time.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So Boland is succeeded by
James Aloysius McNulty.
What was Boland's middle name?
Aloysius.
Oh, I thought so. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a popular name or something?
Among the Irish at the beginning of the century, it was.
Okay.
Aloysius Gonzaga was the patron saint of youth, so somehow that name
stuck. Did you ever hear of Aloysius, Joe? Never?
No, it's not very common today.
Yeah.
But
Aloysius Bush was one of our priests. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm off.
And actually, there's an old legend from my experience that Holy Family in Florham Park was originally going to be named St. Aloysius in honor of Boland. Boland founded it.
Okay.
And there were already 3 Thomases in the diocese. So somebody came up with a big idea of naming it St. Aloysius, but the founding pastor says, nah.
It was falling out of favor even then.
Even then.
Yeah. So McNulty is, unlike many of our other bishops, is well educated. He went with his brother to Louvain.
Right.
Two brothers,
John and James. John ultimately will become the president of Seton Hall University.
Okay.
And they both went to Louvain, both got doctorates. And they both have an interesting connection. During the summers, somehow, they got a summer job working at the Carmel at Lisieux.
Wow.
So they both knew personally the Little Flowers family. They were there at the time that the canonization was taking place. So they both knew the family. There were still 2 of the blood sisters in the Carmel.
Yeah, was it Gearin?
Right. And they, became very involved in that. And later on, McNulty, as a bishop, became one of the early promoters of the cause for canonization of the Little Flowers parents.
Oh, okay. Which
ultimately happened.
Yeah. Relatively
Right.
recently. Yeah.
Right. But so he had a lot of connection in that direction.
But he was assigned as a parish priest first. He didn't take the normal route of seminary education.
No. In Newark, the path to episcopal leadership was mostly through the seminary and the university, or the college, as they called it then. But James McNulty is the odd guy out. He was a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
And as Archbishop Walsh got older, he began to rely on McNulty more and more to fill in whatever was going on at the time. So he became the chairman of the committee for the completion of Sacred Heart Basilica. He became the first editor of the Advocate, when that was founded. He was CYO director one time. He was CCD director of the Archdiocese. They would throw him into. Meanwhile, holding on to a little parish which has since been closed in downtown Newark, St. Bridget's.
You say he would, well, it's obvious from what you just said that he was a good administrator, but you say he was a good speaker. And how do you know that?
Legends.
Okay.
He was very well spoken, very well read, and he would go to something and he would sit there and listen to what everybody else had said. And then he would get up at the end. They would say, "And Bishop, do you have anything?" And he would give this wonderful talk, basically summarizing what everybody else, the points that they had made, and he would weave it together into a synthesis that would wow the crowds.
Yeah.
And so, he was a very popular bishop, and in many ways, a simple, like he's probably the only one of our bishops who fairly often walked to work.
Oh, yeah. You say that he walked from the Chancery,
downtown
to Durham Avenue.
To Durham Avenue, right.
And how long of a walk would that be? That seems
It's
long.
probably a mile and a half.
It seems a lot longer when you drive it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, he was fond of doing that. It was, in many ways simple, but forceful. Like the men of that period referred to him as, the iron fist and the velvet glove.
Firm.
Yeah, he had a saying at the time, "Father, my job is to inspire. Your job is to perspire. I have done my job. Now you go do
yours."
Yes.
Wow.
But he would say it very graciously.
Yeah. I have a note that he did fundraising for catechesis. I don't remember what that was about. Do you remember what that was about?
No.
It just struck me that he was doing fundraising for some catechetical program.
Well, he had, the fundraising for the first Catholic school. So like DePaul
I'm
and
going to get
Morris
to that.
Catholic and Pope John were all built in his
era. What was interesting is that in the great boundary hopping, the night before the diocese is founded, McNulty is moved so that he stays in Newark, right?
Well, actually, he wasn't moved. They forgot about him.
Okay.
And they post-dated his transfer.
Wow. I don't remember seeing that in the footnotes.
Yeah, actually, there were, nobody anticipated this new diocese, at least not at that point. So in the days just before, Walsh of Newark, said to 5 or 6 priests,
make a decision.
I'm
making this offer.
And it's now or never.
Right.
And, for example, the pastor of Assumption in Morristown.
Yeah, you told us that story.
But, and he also transferred a few troubled issues
the other way
into the new diocese. So, but with McNulty at that point, McNulty had all these diocesan jobs, but his seat of residence was St. Anne's Villa in Convent Station. He was the chaplain of the retired nuns. And they forgot about that.
Okay.
So a couple of days after the diocese was announced, Walsh transferred him, but predated the date so that it would be before the change in the diocese. So
yeah, where did you get that story from?
Where did I get that?
Was it Boland?
It might have been.
Yeah. Interesting. So I'm jumping ahead, but ultimately he's going to be moved from Paterson to Buffalo.
Yes,
And he talked about Paterson as paradise.
he did.
So he loved it.
You know, he was here at a perfect time. He was here for 10 years. It was a time of unparalleled growth and energy and vitality.
And
Not that there were no problems, but there was no massive problems.
yeah.
And he got out of Dodge just before everything hit the fan, because he basically, during the council, he got transferred.
Mm.
So he's not remembered for having had to implement any of the council changes in Paterson. And
Right.
Buffalo
That's what
is
they
remembered for all of that,
Yeah.
and they blame it all on him.
Yeah. So I was thinking the city of Paterson must have been a nice place for him to walk home and call it paradise.
Yeah, it was a different place.
Yeah.
But the thing about McNulty, he presided over this vast, surge of building and expansion, and 3 new high schools, and God knows how many new parishes and new schools. But McNulty also slowly pushed the diocese into the wider world.
Yes.
And also out of the orbit of Newark ever so slightly. His interest in the missions in South America.
Yeah. So I was going to save that, but let's go there. He decided that he was going to take seriously. Most people don't know this, but in canon law, a bishop has a responsibility not just for the diocese, but in some measure for the mission of the universal church.
Right.
And he took that seriously.
He did. And, between his Louvain connections, like he was at Louvain basically, in the post-Fulton Sheen era. So he knew him. He knew people in the wider world outside of Newark.
And just so folks know, Louvain is the English name of Leuven in Belgium, which is was a famous American seminary.
Yes, it was one of 3 at that point places where American dioceses sent men to study in Europe: Rome, Louvain, and Innsbruck in Austria.
And now just Rome.
Now
remains.
It's just Rome. Yeah. But McNulty was interested in what was going on in the wider world. So he is the one who heeded John the 23rd's call to send missionaries, lone priests to Latin America. He's the one who first came up with the idea of sending priests.
Yeah, so dioceses were asked to lend their diocesan priests to the missions. Yeah. And I think he was unique in that he made a decision that the Diocese of Paterson would not only financially support a parish in, Bolivia, but he would actually send some of our priests.
Yes, and he got the charities to go along with this as well, so they sent some nuns.
Wow.
I think we sent like 2 or 3 priests and 4 nuns down to Bolivia to work. He actually was in South America when his transfer to Buffalo was announced.
Yeah, he was there visiting. So you mentioned
Vera Mullane, who was the secretary to all these bishops. When he was getting ready to go to South America, she picked up on the fact that something was going on, because he was cleaning out his desk drawer a little bit more thoroughly than you would if you were just going on a 2-week trip,
So he had an inkling that this was going to happen?
I think he knew by that point.
Wow.
And she's saying, why are you emptying this drawer? It's only 2 weeks, and she kind of got the hint that
something was going to happen.
It was something more permanent.
Yeah.
But also he was involved in AID, the Association for International Development. And for a while, it was headquartered in our diocese. So he was involved in a lot. He was a member of the Legion of Decency. He was on the
yeah, which rated movies
rated movies for.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of straws in the fire in different directions, and was not unwilling to push the diocese into connecting, beyond its own boundaries. And
the Association for International Development, is that what you said?
yeah,
Was it? I seem to recollect that was a lay. It was
basically
encouragement of lay
right,
people.
involvement, right, in
Yeah.
the development of church and mission. Yeah.
And I think I remember that he indicated to the diocesan priests that they would be taking applications for guys to go to the missions.
Yes.
And I was surprised at the names of the guys who went. Charlie Cassidy was one of them.
Charlie Cassidy, yes.
John
Huser.
Yes. Yeah, and I
one
can't
of
remember who the third
Bishop
one was.
Redimer's classmate.
Yeah. Yeah. So these were good. I mean, I knew them later when they were back in the diocese functioning as diocesan priests.
Yeah.
Oh, George Dudek was
George
one of
Dudek.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about George Dudek in a previous episode. He's the one who shot the bird out of the Christmas tree, in case you forgot him. So we have this tremendous growth in parishes. And I maybe this is unfair to ask you this, but do you know what was the peak in parishes in our diocese?
The number?
Yeah.
Probably 112.
And when would that have occurred? 80s?
No, more recently.
I was just curious.
Maybe in the last 6 years,
Okay.
We've only recently begun to merge and close a few of them.
Yeah, very carefully.
Very carefully. So the number has not really plummeted. What happened is that, under McNulty was fond of a thing called the exploratory mission. He would look at a place and assign you there and, basically go up and see what's up there and see if it's worth developing. And then a year or so later, it would get a name and something permanent,
Yeah, somewhere I had a list of these interesting parishes in which that happened. Oh, here it is. So, so let me just first ask you, I'm getting a little bit off track, but the following up on that exploratory approach, masses would be celebrated in places before parishes were established and before churches were built.
Yeah.
And so I just want to test your memory to see if you can tell me which parish started here. You ready?
Sure, why not?
Dembski's Tavern.
Dembski's Tavern. Is that St. John Vianney in Stockholm? No, that's the Chorale.
Yeah, that's the Tamarack Chorale.
Tamarack Chorale
is St. John Vianney, so it's close.
Dembski's is St. Thomas in Oak Ridge.
Yep, you got it. You got it. So one mass parish starts in a tavern. The Tamarack Chorale, was that a tavern as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
The Blue Swan Inn.
Oh, that's where I went. That's where I got confirmation.
Okay, and that was what parish?
St. Christopher's in Parsippany.
Good.
That was an old speakeasy on basically where Littleton Road and Route 80 meet now.
Wow.
And by the time we left there for the current church, they had 12 Sunday masses in that place.
Wow.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 upstairs, and the same thing downstairs.
The Blue Swan Inn. 2 parishes began in a roller rink.
Holy Family in Florham Park.
Is that the same roller rink? It's
the oldest business in town.
Oh my goodness! It's still on.
It's still there.
What is it? Hanover and
Columbia Turnpike.
Yeah.
And that's why the original people in that parish are referred to as the Holy Rollers.
Oh,
Because
wow.
for a year...
Because they wore roller skates to Mass?
Because for a year, they would set up Mass in this roller rink every Sunday.
I'm just having an awful vision of the liturgical dance that could happen there. And what was the other one that
In a roller rink.
Florent Park and St. Teresa Succasunna?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And then the last one of the parishes begins in a Masonic temple.
Mountain Lakes.
Yes, St. Catherine's and Mountain Lakes.
Our late associate, Dennis Hogan, received confirmation in the Masonic temple.
Wow. But it was valid nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dennis's recollection of that was that as Bishop McNulty entered the building, to administer confirmation, he looked around and was heard to say, "I always wanted to see what one of these looked like."
Yeah. Probably very few of us have been in a Masonic temple.
Yeah.
So next time we get together, we're going to speak about, believe it or not, strategic planning in the 1950s. We're going to talk about the growth in Catholic parishes, Catholic education, and the work of Bishop McNulty. Let's leave it there. I want all of you who are listening or watching to make sure that you keep an eye out or an ear out for the next episode of Coffee with Kupke. In order to stay on top of new releases, make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. And if you are on YouTube, please do drop a like and hit the bell for notifications. While you're at it, make sure to check out the other shows produced by the diocese. Those shows are Beyond the Beacon, hosted by Bishop Kevin Sweeney and Jay Agnish, our Director of Communications, and the Paul Street Journal, hosted by Brian Hansberger and Freddie Garcia. I want to give a special thanks to Joe Ginexi, our sound and visual engineer, Caitlin Ferrari, who's involved in pre- and post-production, and Freddie Garcia, who's helping out with this podcast in addition to doing his own. With all that said, I just want to thank you for joining us in Coffee with Kupke. Keep making Catholic history in the Diocese of Paterson.